Imagine waking up tomorrow in a world completely empty of people, every city silent, every road abandoned. And you have just one task: travel from Denver, Colorado to a small town in southeast Kazakhstan. You have 18 months to cover roughly 12,000 kilometers across two continents and one ocean. Your equipment: winter clothing, a backpack, an empty water bottle, and a magic compass that always points toward your destination. No map, no phone, no survival training, just you, an accountant in above average shape, against a planet that humanity abandoned 50 years ago. The infrastructure is crumbling, roads are cracked and overgrown, bridges may or may not be standing, and somewhere between you and Kazakhstan lies the Bering Strait, an 82-kilometer stretch of frigid ocean separating Alaska from Russia. Can you actually make it? Let's break this down. The journey splits into three distinct challenges. First, crossing North America from Denver to western Alaska, roughly 5,000 kilometers. Second, somehow getting across the Bering Strait. And third, trekking through Siberia and Central Asia to reach Kazakhstan, another 6,000 kilometers or more. Each leg presents its own potentially fatal obstacles. Starting in Denver during a winter, your immediate concern is survival. Without people, grocery stores have been empty for half a century. Canned goods might still exist in some basements and bunkers, but most food has long since rotted or been consumed by animals. You need to become a hunter-gatherer almost immediately. The problem? You're an accountant. You've never hunted in your life. You've never started a fire without matches. You've never purified water in the wilderness. The skills that made you successful in civilization are completely useless now. Here's some good news though. 50 years is long enough for nature to reclaim cities, but it's also long enough for wildlife to explode in population. Without humans hunting them, deer populations would be massive. Same with rabbits, wild boar, and birds. The challenge isn't finding food, it's catching it without any training or proper tools. Your first weeks would likely be a desperate scramble through abandoned buildings, searching for anything useful. A knife, rope, fire-starting materials. Maybe you find a bow in someone's garage or a fishing rod. Every item you find could mean the difference between life and death. Let's assume you survive the initial learning curve. You figure out how to set basic snares. You learn which berries won't kill you through careful trial and observation. You can start a fire reliably. Now you need to move. Denver to western Alaska is roughly 5,000 kilometers as the crow flies, but you're not a crow. You're following roads that may be completely overgrown with 50 years of vegetation, or cutting through wilderness that has had half a century to grow wild and impenetrable. Walking at a reasonable pace of 30 kilometers per day, accounting for rest days, foraging time, and obstacles. This leg alone could take 6 months or more. But there's a catch. You need to time your arrival in Alaska carefully. Cross the Bering Strait too early in winter and the ice hasn't formed properly. Too late and it becomes unstable as spring approaches. Miss the window entirely and you're stuck waiting an entire year, burning through your 18-month deadline. The real question mark is that ocean crossing. The Bering Strait doesn't freeze solid like a lake. It's covered in shifting pack ice, pressure ridges that can tower 3 meters high, and open water leads that can appear without warning. The distance between the Diomede Islands, your likely crossing point, is about 4 kilometers of ice at the narrowest stretch. But reaching those islands from mainland Alaska is another 40 kilometers across the frozen ocean. That's nearly a marathon on unstable ice in sub-zero temperatures, with no rescue if something goes wrong. Ancient peoples did make this crossing thousands of years ago, but they were experienced Arctic survivors who had lived in these conditions their entire lives. They had proper clothing made from animal skins, knowledge of ice conditions passed down through generations, and they traveled in groups where they could help each other. You have a backpack and determination, not exactly equivalent preparation. Let's be optimistic. You've spent months preparing. You've learned to hunt. You've crafted or found warm clothing from animal pelts. You've studied the ice patterns from shore. You pick a day in late winter when the ice looks solid and you start walking. The temperature is negative 30 degrees Celsius. The wind cuts through any gap in your clothing. If you fall through the ice, you have approximately 90 seconds before cold water incapacitation makes swimming impossible. After that, hypothermia sets in within minutes. Assuming you make it across, you're now standing on Russian soil in the Chukotka region. Congratulations. You're roughly halfway there geographically, but the hardest terrain lies ahead. Siberian winter is arguably the most unforgiving environment on Earth outside of Antarctica. Temperatures can drop to negative 50 degrees Celsius in some regions. The landscape is a frozen wasteland stretching thousands of kilometers with almost nothing that could be called shelter. But here's something interesting. After 50 years without humans, Siberia would have transformed. Wolf packs would have exploded in number. Brown bears would be everywhere. Siberian tigers might have expanded their range. Without human hunters keeping them in check, these predators would have no fear of you. You're not the apex predator here. You're a strange, slow, hairless animal that smells like food. Your magic compass becomes essential now. Without it, navigating the featureless Siberian taiga would be nearly impossible. Every direction looks the same. Endless forest, endless snow, endless white. You push south and west, following the needle, covering whatever ground you can before the cold becomes unbearable. Some days you might manage 20 kilometers. Other days, blizzards force you to shelter in whatever crude protection you can find and wait for the weather to break. Food becomes somewhat easier as you move south and the seasons change. Spring arrives, bringing longer days and migrating birds. Rivers thaw, offering fish if you can fashion a way to catch them. But spring also brings mud. Roads become impassable swamps. Rivers flood their banks. What was frozen solid ground becomes sucking mire that can swallow you to the waist and exhaust you completely. Summer offers the best traveling conditions. Longer days mean more hours to cover ground. Food is abundant with berries, small game, and fish. But summer in Siberia also brings mosquitoes and biting flies in clouds so thick they can drive animals mad. Without insect repellent, you're in for absolute misery. Let's fast forward. You've made it through Siberia. You've crossed into Kazakhstan. The terrain changes from taiga to steppe, vast grasslands stretching to the horizon in every direction. Your destination is somewhere in the southeast, near the mountains bordering China and Kyrgyzstan. The compass needle swings slightly with each step, confirming you're getting closer. By now you've been traveling for perhaps 14 months. You've walked roughly 10,000 kilometers. You've survived winter crossings, predator encounters, and the complete absence of modern medicine for over a year. A twisted ankle, an infected cut, food poisoning from bad meat, any of these could have ended your journey permanently. But somehow, against all odds, you're still moving forward. The final stretch might actually be the most psychologically difficult. You're so close. The compass shows your destination is just days away, but your body is broken down from over a year of constant travel and malnutrition. Every joint aches. Old injuries flare with each step. The temptation to push too hard, to ignore warning signs from your body, could be fatal this close to the finish line. So can an average accountant actually complete this journey? Honestly, the odds are terrible. Survival experts estimate that even trained wilderness specialists would face significant risk of death on a journey like this. For someone with no training, starting in winter, with minimal supplies, the chances of success are probably below 5%, maybe lower. The most likely failure points, the Bering Strait crossing claims most hypothetical attempts. Falling through ice, exposure, or getting lost on shifting pack ice would end most journeys right there. For those who survive the crossing, Siberian winter and predators take their toll. And even the lucky few who make it through face malnutrition, injury, and disease without any medical care. But here's what makes this thought experiment fascinating. It's not impossible. Humans have survived incredible journeys throughout history. Ancient peoples crossed the Bering Land Bridge to populate the Americas. Explorers have trekked across Antarctica with primitive equipment. Survivors of shipwrecks have walked out of jungles after months of isolation. What would it take to succeed? Luck, certainly, but also adaptability, the willingness to learn from every mistake without dying from it, the mental fortitude to keep moving when everything inside you screams to stop. The human body is remarkably resilient when pushed to its limits. The human mind, when properly motivated, even more so. In the end, this isn't really a question about geography or survival skills. It's a question about what an average person can become when everything depends on it. Strip away civilization, strip away comfort, strip away every safety net we've built, and what remains? Perhaps something more capable than we ever imagined, or perhaps just a humbling reminder of how fragile we really are without the society we've constructed around us.